Reform UK wants to scrap neutral civil servants and hire anti-ECHR staff. Going to read into this more from the Times, you guys. So Richard Tice, the party's deputy leader, also floats the idea of a US-style political appointments for judges. I mean, just before we even get into the article, just let that sit in your and marinate in your mind for just a moment, guys. Here, so the civil servants and judges who are impartial and who are neutral in our system, in our political system, right? Who remain neutral, not political sides or any affiliates, not left or right or whatever. And Reform UK, Richard Tice here, wants to take those people out who are neutral, who don't have political affiliations. He wants to get rid of them, including civil servants, and wants to have reform-affiliated, reform-favoured civil servants and reform-favoured judges. Now, you think about this. You think about the US political system there and how messed up that is. That's messed up. Yeah, our system's pretty messed up, but we have at least in the UK here, at least we have some checks and boundaries. And Richard Tice wants to scrap that for him and his party's own political benefit. Not for you, not in your benefit, but for their benefit, for their mates, for their buddies, for their millionaires and billionaires. They would want to undermine the very systems that we have, and not in a good way. Like, imagine that. Reform appointed judges. Can you imagine the damage that could cause? Oh, do you think you can protest? Oh, no. You think protesting is bad now? Oh, you won't be allowed to protest under this party. I'll tell you that right now. Like, it is so dangerous, so authoritarianism, the language that Richard Tice is talking about. Almost as authoritarianism as the Nazis was in Germany. That's how dangerous it's going. They want to rip everything up. Yeah? And it benefits no one but the richest in society. Not the working class people, not the people on benefits, not migrants, not anybody in the UK apart from the richest and the wealthiest in society, where they can milk you for all your money even more than ever before. And if we leave the ECHR, you can kiss whatever human rights you've ever had goodbye. Yeah? Sick pay, gone. Holiday pay, gone. Oh, you think you can go on holiday? Oh, that's coming out of your own pocket. That's not coming out of the companies. You think I'm joking? Yeah? You think I'm joking? Yeah? Your rights are going to be eroded by this party. And you really honestly don't know, some of you, just how important the ECHR is. Because some of you reform voters don't have the courtesy or even have the brain capacity to simply Google and read what the ECHR is and what it does and how it protects your human rights. But here we are. So Reform UK would create a new department for immigration staff solely by people who agree with the party's radical policies to leave the European Convention on Human Rights and implement mass deportations. And by the way, them doing this, also, the so-called people that they would put in, that would put them at risk as well, just for reference. Richard Tice, the deputy leader, said the party would scrap the principle of civil servants' neutrality if Nigel Farage was elected Prime Minister. A reform government would instead appoint civil servants who are completely committed to its immigration policies, he added. Fleshing out details of the party's plans for government, Tice also said that he was open to the idea of judges being political appointments. He was speaking on a platform with two former Conservative cabinet ministers to endorse a blueprint for how Britain could leave the ECHR, leading to speculation of further defections to reform. However, Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary who had set out a 50-page report on why and how to leave the ECHR, said, "I'm not defecting, I've been elected as a Conservative Member of Parliament." Interesting. I generally thought that when she was going to speak that she would have defected, but she didn't. She suggested it would be difficult to join reform while Zada Yusuf remained in the party, after he accused her of being complicit in the cover-up of the Afghan data leak. Let me make something perfectly clear about the Afghan data leak, and I have my reservations about Suella Braverman here. But as far as the Afghan data leak concerns, and yes, it did cost us taxpayer money, but people's lives are at risk here. The Conservatives were right to cover it up because it protected people's lives. I think the Conservatives in that regard were right to do what they did, even though it was a waste of even though taxpayer money was used on it. Braverman said Zaya Yusuf doesn't have the experience of running national security or being in cabinet or being elected. He wasn't spoken with any authority about the subject, and he's wrong on these accusations against me. Tice refused to say whether Braverman would be welcome to join Reform, saying, at the end of the day, people have got to believe in our principles and values, and we don't give a running commentary on every person. He insisted that cross-party events hosted by the right-wing Prosperity Institute was designed to start a debate about how Britain could leave the ECHR as rapidly and as basically legally possible. It reflected Reform's willingness to work across divides to leave the ECHR and ramp up pressure on Labour. Last month, Reform announced plans to deport 600,000 illegal migrants over a 5-year period if it entered power. It would include leaving the ECHR, repeal the Human Rights Act, and disapply other international laws such as the Refugee Convention. Yeah, see, repeal the Human Rights Act, which means your rights are gone. Basically, they can turn you into slaves, essentially. Asked how the party would enact policies given his previous comments describing the Home Office staff as incompetent, who don't believe in securing borders, Tice said, we need a Department of Immigration, a specific border force, who actually believe in the cause of securing borders. And on this particular issue, if you don't believe in that cause, then you're probably not the right person for that job. I think we've got to have a proper debate in this particular area about why it should be, why should the people enacting it to be neutral? Well, that's to protect the system. That's why. Why do we accept that? It's failed us, it's let us down. I want people who are going to enact and be completely committed to ensuring the will of the people. No, it's to stop the UK government finding itself breaking international laws and obligations. That's why. It's not rocket science to figure that out. Tice also opened the door to introducing American-style political appointments for judges. Yeah, because that's going really well in America right now, isn't it? Saying that the way in which judges are appointed is something that clearly needs looking at. He said, we've got to get much more responsibility and accountability back to ministers who then ultimately are answerable. Braverman went further, calling for the Judicial Appointment Commission, which selects judges in England and Wales, to be scrapped because members were using their authoritarian positions to further a political agenda. There is no political agenda in the appointment of judges. This is absolute nonsense. She said, I think there needs to be a much better restoration of ministerial powers and accountability, so I scrapped the Judicial Appointment Commissions and I would take it back to ministers. Again, no, that would just put judges... No, that I don't agree with that at all. Government should not have control over judges. No, it should not. It needs to remain neutral. Under Braverman's blueprint for leaving the ECHR, the government would invoke Article 58 of the Convention, triggering a 6-month countdown to withdrawal. A bill calling for the ECHR Notification Withdrawal Act would be introduced to repeal the Human Rights Act, and temporary commissions would be set up to review which case law should be retained from the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. A phased programme of diplomacy would then take place to renegotiate the Northern Ireland peace deal and post-Brexit trade deal with the EU to remove reference to the ECHR. The devolution settlement with Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland would be amended to remove references to the ECHR, Braverman said. All 3 of those countries would not accept that. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland would be absolutely outrageous. Finally, her plan would have the transition period in which legislation would be introduced to re-anchor the supremacy of common law, which she described as the breathing framework of our constitution. We don't have a constitution. That is fundamental to our sovereignty because it's not dedicated by foreign courts. The ECHR is not a foreign court. I don't know why people haven't got that through their heads. Tice said a reform government would be willing to rewrite the Good Friday Agreement, credited with ending 3 decades of violence in Northern Ireland, without supplying national parties. The violence in Northern Ireland was calmed down thanks to the Good Friday Agreement, and it's only been riled up because of Brexit. People forget that. Nationalist politics said leaving the ECHR would breach the agreement. However, Tice said Parliament has already made changes to the agreement. The idea that it is sort of preserved in aspect can't be touched and untouchable is just not the case. Asked whether we'd be willing to impose changes over the objections of nationalists, he said that's the joy of democracy, and frankly it would be boring if we all agree with each other. You have discussions, you have debates, and you've got to get a conclusion. But ultimately, there has to be a belief in our sovereign parliament. It's just absolutely insane. These people are insane. They literally want to rip up the rule book. The protections and freedoms that we have would be completely gone if these people come to power. That's how dangerous and scary these people are. Like, you think it's a joke. You think it's funny, some people think. Do things need to change in politics? Absolutely. But the kind of language and the kind of things that these people want to do will not benefit us. They don't care about you. They don't care about ordinary people. They honestly don't. They're just saying what they need to say. And trust me, just like when Labour, when they come into power, they're going to BS you. They're not to be trusted. You cannot trust Reform UK. Nigel Farage is a proven liar and charlatan, and they've done it before, and they're going to do it again here. Please don't fall for this antics. Please do your own research. Listen to what they have said, because it will not be for the benefit of ordinary people. It is beneficial to the millionaires and billionaires. That's all they care about, and not just even UK ones, but foreign ones as well. They all bragged and said that Brexit would fix everything, and all it's done is made things worse for us. What do you guys honestly think about Reform UK? They want to scrap neutral civil servants, and they want to bring the idea of US-style political appointments for judges. Let me know your thoughts on all of this and more down in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting and informative, hit the like button, share this across social media. Subscribe if you haven't already. Do check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content. And instead of wasting your money on Reform UK, you can join my membership instead for as little as 99p. We actually get some perks and benefits for being a member as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.